Welcome to this tutorial on how to use the Shatterfields bot app, built in Flutter Flow.
To run the bot, you only need the bot's cards, counters, and the commander dashboard.
Tap Campaign, then choose one of the commanders. You will see all the missions currently available for that commander, along with the commander's geographic area of operations. Let's select the first mission for Alexander Novak of the Visegrad Syndicate. First, we get a short briefing that introduces the combat scenario and the region where the battle will take place. Then we get a quick overview of the mission objectives. In the third screen, the app explains more specifically how those objectives can be achieved. You will also see the mission's victory conditions and defeat conditions. After that, we move to the actual setup screen. Here, the app tells you where to place the commander's headquarters, how to build the bot's base if it starts partially pre-built, what the starting resources are, and all the general setup notes for that specific mission. This is also where you'll find basic reminders on how to use the app. For example, if combat occurs, you must tap Combat to resolve it. Now, let's begin the first round. This is the turn type selection screen. During your turn, as you already know, you may choose whether it will be a strategic turn, a tactical turn, or whether you want to pass for the round. You also see the current status of the mission objectives. In this case, all three objectives are still inactive because none of them has been achieved yet. The screen also reminds you of the victory and defeat conditions. During a strategic turn, you may build or produce units. The app needs you to feed the bot the correct information about what you have done. For example, you must report whether you built the vault, the barracks, infantry, vehicles, or any other unit, and whether you built static defenses such as a light outpost or a naval outpost, and so on. Some objectives must also be completed during a strategic turn. If they are currently achievable, you can tap them directly. In this case, for example, to restore Solar Ridge, I need to control Zone A. Since I do not control it yet, I cannot activate that objective. Once I finish my turn, I confirm the end of the turn and the app sends me to the bot turn page. At the beginning of the bot turn, there is a small reference section explaining what directions such as H1, H5, or H6 mean. These refer to directional hexes relative to a building or unit. For example, after tapping to calculate the bot's action, the app may tell us to produce 2 infantry in spawn positions adjacent to the barracks in H5 and H6. In practical terms, if this is the barracks, I will place 1 infantry in the hex corresponding to direction H5, and the other in the hex corresponding to H6. The bot may also instruct movement in a given direction, or tell you to line up units along a specific axis. Combat can also occur during the bot's turn. For example, the bot may encounter the player during movement, and in that case you must tap Combat. We'll look at that in a moment. Also, if during the bot's turn the instructions tell it to capture a zone, and that capture happens uncontested, meaning no combat occurs, then the zone is simply conquered, and that must be reported during the bot turn. If this kind of information is not reported correctly, the bot's understanding of the game state may break, and it may fail to calculate the next operations properly. Feeding the app accurate information is extremely important. Now let's move to the tactical turn. During a tactical turn, I can move my units and attack with them. For example, I might move to capture Objective A. The moment Objective A comes under my exclusive control, or if I capture Objective C, the North Port, I must declare it here in the app. If this happens uncontested, there is no combat. If the area must be fought over, then I tap Combat and will now see how combat works. Let's end the turn. The bot chooses to pass since it controls no zones, and I also decide to pass for the round. We have captured Zone C, and the app now shows that among the currently completed objectives. We end the round, and the app reminds us to collect our resources from the vault, the headquarters, and any controlled zones. Compared to Assault mode, the zone rewards work differently here. Red zones provide extra war bond, while blue zones grant additional scoring benefits as described by the mission rules. We proceed to the next round. It is now the bot's turn, and it decides to produce additional units. Then it becomes our turn again, and we may continue moving troops or produce more units. For example, we might also decide to upgrade the vault or the headquarters. Whenever we do that, we must report the upgrade in the app. Now we reach a case where combat occurs. In this example, the app tells us to move on to Objective C and unload units into the area. Since this happens in a zone that is currently under player control, combat will be required. This is the combat resolution screen. The bot's combat logic is based on two simple rules. First, the bot's special abilities must always be used in the way that is most disadvantageous for the player. So, if one or more abilities are both available and relevant, you must activate them in the way that creates the worst possible situation for the player. Second, the bot may choose not to engage. It will not engage unless it has at least one unit with accuracy higher than 50% against at least one of the available targets. In this case, that is not a problem. A lander is fighting infantry, so the combat is favorable for the bot. You must then declare the combat zone. The fight could take place in open map space, outside any scoring zone, or even inside one of the player's bases. In this case, we are fighting over Zone C, and the app already tells us that this zone is currently under player control. At this point, normal combat begins. The player rolls the dice and applies damage to the bot. Then it is the bot's turn to attack. Each time I roll dice for the bot, I must declare that the bot has attacked by tapping Bot Attack. If needed, I can also cancel that action. The outcome of combat may also change zone control. If the bot takes control of the area, I must update that in the Zone Control Shift section. If both the player and the bot still have control presence in the area, then the zone is contested, which means it is effectively controlled by neither side. That also must be reported correctly. If instead the combat takes place inside one of the bases, then at the end of the fight the app will ask in which base the combat occurred. If buildings were destroyed, for example if the barracks were attacked and destroyed, I must report that by tapping the corresponding icons. It is extremely important to remember to report every change in zone control, both during the bot's turn and during the player's turn. Otherwise, the bot may end up working with incomplete information and fail to calculate the correct next operation. Subscribe and stay tuned for the next videos and updates.